Hey everyone, welcome to my 2024 San Diego SeaWorld review. If you're not familiar with SeaWorld, it is a marine zoological theme park that was based heavily off of the performance of marine animals, specifically the porpoises such as dolphins and orcas, and also other whales and marine creatures. So even though SeaWorld was based off those big, beautiful sea creatures that provided performances for us, they've actually shifted away from said animal performances and shifted more towards entertainment, conservation, as well as animal rehabilitation. With that, SeaWorld has brought on many new rides, coasters, and other means of entertainment to make sure that its guests and patrons are still happy. So let's find out if SeaWorld is worth going to in San Diego in 2024. What's up everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Derek and in today's video, we're going to be going over everything you might need to know before you go to SeaWorld. And in the process, we're also going to be giving SeaWorld a review so that way you know if SeaWorld is appropriate for you and your family. Stay tuned. So before we get into the 2024 SeaWorld review, I want to say thank you. Yes, you. Because you're watching this video and I really appreciate you spending time with me to talk about SeaWorld and other things on this channel for Know Before You Go. So if you can, hit that like and subscribe button below. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it really does help this channel get to the deep dark corners of the YouTube algorithm. Alright, so now that we got that portion completed, let's talk about the first thing, and I think is the most important thing when you're at SeaWorld, and that's going to be navigation. So SeaWorld, just like any other theme park, is going to require a lot of walking. So when you are at SeaWorld, you are going to be able to look at these signs that are going to help you navigate from point A to point B. But if you really want to be efficient with the way that you are going through SeaWorld, you definitely want to make sure you download the SeaWorld app. I put their link down below in the description box. And with the SeaWorld app, you're going to see multiple things. You're going to see the wait time for a certain ride. You're going to see the best possible path to get from, let's say, coaster 1 to coaster 2. And then you're also able to see things like food and other prices and other performances for the animals within the SeaWorld app. So Know Before You Go tip number 1 is going to be make sure that you download that app because it's going to save you so much time when you're trying to figure out just the general logistics of navigating SeaWorld. And the app is so useful because if you're there with your family, maybe you have some children with you, we all know that can be quite chaotic. And so if you have this app and you're navigating through SeaWorld using that app, it's going to save you a lot of frustration. Continuing on with navigation, one thing that I truly found that was super cool is that if you're inside the actual SeaWorld location, you can actually pull up Google Maps and find that particular ride and it will direct you there. And so this is completely independent of the navigation that's built into the SeaWorld app. So one of the things you want to make sure you're doing as you are using the Google Maps app to get from, let's say, Escape from Atlantis over to the Manta ride is to make sure that you're changing the means of how you get there. So most of the time when we're using Google Maps as a GPS, we're using as a car to get there, but make sure you just change that car metric over to walking so that way it navigates you within the map through Google Maps to get to your next location. Now let's talk about the rides in SeaWorld. And so when I was a kid, I always saw the advertisements, the commercials, the pamphlets for showing that SeaWorld is all about animals. And maybe that's what it was. But nowadays, as in 2024, and me being a millennial, SeaWorld has really stepped up its game for making sure that families can still enjoy SeaWorld with lesser dependence on animal performances. And so that means SeaWorld has truly stepped up their games and they are actively adding roller coasters and rides in order to keep everyone entertained. So if you are an adrenaline junkie where you just love to have your feet dangling from the roller coaster, or you like that super fast takeoff on a coaster, SeaWorld's got you covered. So one of the rides that I truly enjoyed at SeaWorld is going to be called the Emperor. And so you can actually see the Emperor from the parking lot while you're making your way to the main entrance of SeaWorld. So the reason why I like the Emperor is mainly because it has a breathtaking 100 143-foot drop at a 90-degree angle. That is pretty intense. And so I haven't rode on a roller coaster in about 10 years. And so when I got onto this Emperor, I was a little bit nervous. However, it was so worth the wait. And another ride that I truly enjoyed that is going to actually be SeaWorld's newest ride is going to be Arctic Rescue. And so Arctic Rescue was opened recently in SeaWorld. And so even though Arctic Rescue is its newest ride, it doesn't have all the flips and twists that a typical roller coaster would have. So I would say the Arctic Rescue is a little bit more kid-friendly because of the fact that, again, you're not actually going upside down in any of its loops. However, one of the things that the Arctic Rescue really gets you with is its adrenaline pumping start. So right off the bat, once you're about to load into Arctic Rescue, or maybe the people in front of you are loading up to use the Arctic Rescue, you can actually just see that this roller coaster is going to literally shoot you out of the loading bay and onto the rest of the ride. And it is so much fun because I mean, wow, it just takes the breath out of you. So just outside of the Arctic Rescue area is going to be the beluga whale exhibit. And so a fun fact about the beluga whale is that they are called the canaries of the sea because they make over so many different pitches and noise and kind of whale cries.
Now you're in a lot of different vocalizations. These guys are also known as the canaries of the sea because they can make more than 50 distinct vocalizations. They can sound like a foghorn like that. A lot of squeaks, squawks, can even make duck noises. And it's all thanks to that melon.
You just have to kind of experience it for yourself, but these beluga whales were so adorable. They were so cute, and you're actually able to get into the water with a payment, obviously. You're actually able to get into the water and pet some of these beluga whales. If you're not going to get into the water with the beluga whales, you're not going to be disappointed because the beluga whales are still going to put on a tiny show. Not the same type of show that you would see like a dolphin or an orca, but the beluga whales will still do little tricks to appease the crowd, and man, do they do a good job at it. Also, I want to say kudos to the SeaWorld trainers, specifically the ones that I saw at the beluga whale exhibit, because they showed so much compassion and care to these beluga whales, and you could kind of see that the beluga whales were enjoying themselves. So if you want to see the beluga whale exhibit, it is literally the same door as the exit of the Arctic Rescue roller coaster. So my favorite and a fan favorite of the SeaWorld roller coasters is going to be called Manta. So you would essentially be imitating what a manta ray would be doing in the water. And so manta rays are quite amazing creatures. Even though they look like stingrays, they are actually a part of the shark family. And I only know this because that's what the SeaWorld person told me. But the actual manta ride is definitely my favorite. And just outside of the waiting area for the manta ride, there's going to be a little pool section that actually have manta rays and various shark species swimming inside of it. And so it is arm's length away. You can actually touch the manta rays and those sharks if they are close enough to you. So that leads me to know before you go tip number 2. And so if you are going to be going to the SeaWorld exhibits, do make sure that you are keeping track of your children because of the fact that a lot of the ledges and where the manta rays or the other fish and other creatures are, the children could easily jump over this, and you just don't want to put your child in danger and also the animals in danger as well. All right, so now let's actually talk about the manta ride. So the manta ride is definitely my favorite because your feet are dangling. That's just a personal thing for me. I like to have my feet dangling on a roller coaster. It adds to the spice and the excitement. However, the manta ride is also my favorite because of the fact that it has the most loop-de-loops as well as all of the twists and turns, and it's just really wonderful. So if you're going to go to SeaWorld and you're trying to figure out what's the biggest, baddest ride that I can ride, I would highly suggest you hit up the manta ride first. So when you're looking at the actual rides, you should take notice that just before you enter a ride, you're gonna see some signage there where you're able to see what's the wait time for this actual ride. And I would have to say that SeaWorld does a really good job of keeping that wait time down. I've been to other theme parks around the world where I'd wait 30 minutes, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour just to ride a 3-minute ride. However, in SeaWorld, I waited maybe 10 minutes max in order to get on any of the rides I've spoken about so far on this video. I do want to put a disclosure out there and say that when my family and I did go to SeaWorld, it was on a Thursday afternoon, so take with that what you will. So another ride that we got to ride over in SeaWorld is going to be Escape from Atlantis, and OMG, if you want to get a little bit drenched or soaked from a water ride, this is the one to do it. I can't really describe the magic of Escape from Atlantis, but let me just tell you that it's quite deceiving. You think you go up into the ride and then you take an initial drop and you're done? No. You definitely have to ride it, but you also have to make sure that you're wearing clothes where you're going to dry quickly, or maybe have a spare change of clothes, because let me just say, you are going to get wet on that ride. So those are the rides that we are able to ride in SeaWorld. There are smaller things that you could do at SeaWorld if riding rides aren't your jimmy jam. You could actually go to an arcade. They have the carnival style basketball type games. They also have things like penguin exhibits, walrus exhibits, sea turtle exhibits, flamingo exhibits. And then obviously the ever famous dolphin exhibits. So I grew up around the ocean, so dolphins aren't really a new creature to me. I love dolphins. They're probably one of my most favorite marine animals of all time. So if you are not familiar with dolphins, you should be ready to see all of the amazing things that they can do within the dolphin presentations. So within these dolphin presentations and performances, you do want to make sure that you're looking on that SeaWorld app to check and see when is the next dolphin presentation, because the SeaWorld animal performances are actually based on a set schedule, so that way the animals are not overworked and they're getting the proper rest that they need. So unfortunately, due to timing, my family and I weren't able to go to those dolphin performances, but if you are able to make it to those dolphin performances, you are not going to be disappointed. But do make sure that you're going to be respectful, and then you cheer on those dolphins because they are just natural born performers. And again, check that SeaWorld app to make sure that you're there on time to get to that particular performance. So the general upkeep of SeaWorld in San Diego is just really nice. The landscaping, the trees, the bushes, the decorations, it's all just really on point. I, again, have been to multiple theme parks in the past, and I would have to say that the SeaWorld one in San Diego is just really top tier. Alright, so now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about food, because you know Derek likes food. So as you're walking around SeaWorld, you're actually going to work up an appetite because it's just natural. And so the first thing I want to say is make sure you bring lots of money, because the food at SeaWorld is probably one of the worst things. Not because it doesn't taste good, but more so because it's expensive. So while you're purchasing your SeaWorld ticket, you're going to be offered the opportunity to have essentially a food pass or a meal pass. And so this meal pass is going to allow you to eat every 90 minutes or so. I can't remember the actual time, but you're able to eat at any of the food establishments inside of SeaWorld for an additional fee tacked onto your SeaWorld ticket. And so, like I said, the food prices at SeaWorld are expensive. So if you know you're going to be at SeaWorld all day and you have little ones that are going to just be eating all the time, maybe it might be a little bit more economical, so that way you are able to load up that meal pass and then allow your kiddos or your family to eat as much as they want within the SeaWorld boundaries. So now let's talk a little bit more about purchasing things at SeaWorld. We spoke about the food, we've spoken a little bit about the tickets, but you should know that SeaWorld is at no shortage of merchandise. There are going to be different types of kiosks, there are going to be face painting, there's going to be actual dedicated stores, souvenir shops, and the list kind of just goes on and on and on. But do know that if you are going to buy something in terms of merchandise from any of these locations, you are going to be spending a pretty penny on those, because I mean, really, it's just super expensive to buy any of the merchandise. But if you are visiting and it's just going to be one of those things where you haven't visited or you're planning not to visit for a long time, you definitely want to get a souvenir. Alright, so now let's veer away from the purchasing of things at SeaWorld and let's talk about a little bit more entertainment things at SeaWorld. There are going to be special events that SeaWorld does offer, and so one of the things that you want to make sure is look at their website and check and see when those special events happen. When we went to SeaWorld, it was also the same day that they had their very first Halloween exhibits. So my niece's nephew, girlfriend, and I, we all stayed for the Halloween event, and boy was it worth it. If you haven't watched that SeaWorld Halloween event yet, there's going to be a video here or here, or somewhere, and you can go ahead and watch that video after you finish watching this one. I will have to say that the Halloween SeaWorld event is fantastic. Alright, so this is the part that I don't typically talk about in my videos, but anyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge Pokemon fan, and so I play Pokemon Go pretty much anywhere I go. And if you're a Pokemon Go player, SeaWorld has you covered because there are raids, there are gyms, there are a ton of Pokestops, and even the new Dynamax feature is plentiful at the SeaWorld location, at least inside of the San Diego. Alright, so now let's recap the Know Before You Go tips for SeaWorld San Diego. Starting off with number 1, make sure you download that SeaWorld app because it's really going to help you with the logistics of things, pricing, time, performances. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So make sure that you have that app downloaded. Even if you uninstall your app once you leave SeaWorld, for that time being when you are using the app, it's going to save you a whirlwind of frustration. Know Before You Go tip number 2 is going to be making sure that you are arriving early. The parking lot is going to get filled up pretty quick. So if you arrive early, you're going to secure a good spot and you're not going to have to walk to the far corners of the SeaWorld parking lot after you've been walking all day at SeaWorld. Tip number 3, consider purchasing a queue pass, which essentially gets you to the front of the line for a roller coaster. And so like I mentioned in the video, the lines for the roller coasters aren't too bad, but that was again because we were on a Thursday. But let's say if you're going on a Saturday when there's more people off of work and there's just more expected crowd and saturation of people there, the queue pass might actually be good for you, so that way you can go ahead and get to the front of the line of that particular roller coaster and then ride it and then go to the next ride and then use that queue pass again, so that way you're saving time but maximizing your enjoyment. Tip number 4 is going to be the fact that you are in sunny San Diego. There is a lot of sun there, and so while I love the San Diego 70 sunny degree weather all year round, you are going to get burnt. So make sure you're wearing a hat, maybe some shades, you are going to be wearing some sunscreen, and then also maybe staying in the shade so that way those UV rays aren't cooking you. Tip number 5 is going to be making sure you're respectful to not just the other patrons that are at SeaWorld, but make sure you're also respectful to the animals, because these animals are there 100% of the time. And so while the patrons will leave after their time in SeaWorld, the animals are still going to be there. So make sure you give some love to the dolphins by cheering them on, or maybe if you're going to pet a manta ray or a fish or whatever it is, make sure that you are going to be respectful and just love on the animals, because let's just be real, animals are amazing. So what do you think? Do you think that the San Diego SeaWorld in 2024 is worth your time and money? Let me know in the comments below, because honestly, we enjoyed it and we are definitely going to go back next time we're all in San Diego. Okay, so I actually realized that I didn't actually give you a numeric value for a review for SeaWorld San Diego. And so with all the experiences and all the things that my family and I did and all of the enjoyment that we received from SeaWorld, I'm actually going to give it an 8.9572 out of 10 because of the fact that SeaWorld is just ridiculously expensive. From the time that you first purchase your ticket, to the parking, to the merchandise, to the food, that is why I'm dinging SeaWorld. I appreciate everyone who made it to this video. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. Again, it doesn't cost you a thing. And for one more request, hit that bell notification, because I drop videos weekly. And so when you hit that bell notification, you're going to be able to watch my videos at the time that they're released. I'll see you in the next one.